Support for Greater Chattanooga is provided by EPB Fiber Optics.
I think the bridge is representative of a lot of things to a lot of people.
Really sort of the most iconic public place that we have.
To a lot of people in the Black community, before we see it as anything else, it is something that we have to sort of have to recognize some of the atrocities that occurred there.
The bridge is not simply a place to walk. It's not just a place for great photos or to get an exceptional view of the city. In truth, it's been a place of torture, of human violation, and human destruction. In our case with Ed Johnson on the bridge, if that was a place of his death, by all means, it should be a place of remembrance.
Well, Ed Johnson would have been one of those people that was lynched between 1875 and 1920.
We know that he was a stonemason. We know that he worked also at a saloon in St. Elmo. In January of 1906, a woman by Nevada Taylor was sexually assaulted. And one thing she expressed in the midst of this really tragic and traumatic event was that she didn't actually see her attacker. So days after this, there was a ransom, a reward rather, put up for this, and the reward grew day after day. Ed Johnson was arrested.
In those days, you didn't have to be accused of much of anything. You could have been accused of vagrancy or loitering. Remember that you had, at this time, you had the black codes, and so African American could have faced a legal citation for almost anything. And so it was very, what we would call today circumstantial evidence, if you can even call it evidence, that was levied against Ed Johnson.
There were 10 people, at least, who indicated that he was on site at his job in St. Elmo at the time of this assault. Based upon the record, based upon the evidence, based upon the testimony, Ed Johnson was not her attacker. So the community didn't actually get justice. And so his father went to Noah Parton, essentially Noah Parton went to Stiles Hutchins, and they decided to take on the case.
This particular trial is unique in the situation and circumstances because it was directly appealed all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
And Justice Harlan provided a series of execution. This was a provocation to the Southern order, the Southern way to states' rights. And so it wasn't simply about Ed Johnson, Nevada Taylor, Ed Johnson's guilt or innocence, or even a single community, that the men of the South were affronted by the Supreme Court overstepping their boundaries. And so the mob organized and ultimately broke into Ed Johnson's cell, put a rope around his neck, marched him down the street, walked him up to the Walnut Street Bridge. They offered him an opportunity to confess of his sins. And his final words were, "God bless you all. I'm an innocent man."
And it was a story that the African American community never forgot. All of the victims we never forgot, but you did know the significance of Ed Johnson. And I think it really was a collaborative community effort to get this done, to right this wrong, and to let the healing begin.
We look forward to the opportunity this represents to work together as a city to embrace our historical legacy through public art. This will require securing the right site, receiving approval for an inspiring proposal, and raising the necessary funds.
The committee has done a ton of work over the past 4 years, really ongoing, of having diverse groups come together, Black and white community members, talk about the story and understand the story and understand the need for a memorial.
And so we wanted something that people would actually want to come in that didn't just serve shock value. I think Jerome's vision of it just spoke to I wouldn't necessarily say the needs of this community, but the desire of this community, what we hope that the memorial would represent going forward.
As an African American male, aware of the sociological injustices, and as an artist who believes that the artistic voice has an important part to play, I was just thrilled to be awarded the commission.
This process. Thank you very much.
Memorials are certainly a longstanding tradition in public art, really since public art has been happening in the U.S.
But ultimately, the question is, who deserves to be memorialized? And I think because Ed Johnson had something taken from him, his life, and because he was a victim of Southern law and he was a victim of American racism, that this act is in part to reaffirm his humanity.
These three men, Ed Johnson, Noah Pardon, and Styles Hutchins, deserve to be acknowledged in our city in a significant way.
From the very beginning, I saw Ed Johnson walking, symbolically, finally walking away from that travesty. I think of them symbolically as courage, compassion, and grace. I see Ed Johnson as grace. I see Noah Pardon as courage. He's using the judicial system as his weapon to fight injustice. And then Styles Hutchins is compassion by virtue of him reaching for Ed Johnson's hand.
We're doing a site-specific, immersive public space. So this becomes much more complicated than showing up with your sculptures and putting them down.
This is perhaps the most challenging with respect to procedure. These, because of their irregular nature and going down the slope, is more of the artistry of the memorial carries through into this. So it's going to be a once we started construction, where it was no longer what's on that construction document, it is what these stones are telling me they want to, and what and how they want to contribute.
There's been an interesting debate what type of history should be taught. Do we need to be selective and subjective and watered down? What are the most important elements of our history? What we have to do is lean to the better angels of our nature, as Lincoln said, and recognize that we have to learn from one another. And that means inclusion of different aspects of history as it actually happened.
I think that there are movements, and we are in the midst of a movement that's not simply around better truth-telling, but it's about a generation anew being responsive to new elements of the American story. The first step you see in societies as they're trying to heal is they commit to the most truthful record about what happened. The baseline, the very foundation of societal healing is the truth. It's the truth.
I live by the adage that all truths will out. The Ed Johnson story have been repressed and buried, and but they don't go away. They don't cease to exist. So eventually, all truths will out. Also, will be the same gray stone that caps off this section. Right. I wouldn't want it to look as if it's a noticeable patch. It just takes away from the spirit of the piece. Every time you hear these stories, there's this anger that comes up, but then you want to set that aside or try to work through that to find some way of moving forward. And so here comes the Ed Johnson story, and he's right there as this unbelievable spokesperson. And so this project was a way of not just honoring that person, but having him teach me.
Healing occurs when you tell the story, when you bring awareness to what happened at the bridge, and when you also give an open space to where we can have meaningful dialogue and discussion on how we can go forward and progress.
So that axial line references the flow of the river, and that's the stream of time. So then as that stream of time crosses out of the plaza, it becomes the stream of history. There's 3 oval shapes. Those will contain these abstract forms representing the other 3 individuals lynched in Chattanooga. In the center, of course, is the central grouping. The story basically goes up to the Ed Johnson story, the accounting of it. But then we've got 115 years of basically no accounting for what happened to Ed Johnson's spirit. And so the libation ceremony was to acknowledge that as a result of all of that, Ed Johnson became an ancestor. And I say that in terms of our ancestors being there to guide us and to teach us and to help us along our paths. He became that, as did Noah and Stiles. And so the libation ceremony was to acknowledge and honor them in that way.
You can tell this project is hugely important for Jerome, obviously, but he has almost like this spiritual connection to this work.
As far as I was concerned, Ed Johnson was spending a lot of time with me in my studio. That poem that I wrote, we see Ed Johnson walking. I'm sitting at my desk one day, and all of a sudden, these words just start coming.
We see Ed Johnson walking, restored and honored, his footsteps resounding along the stream of time. We see Ed Johnson
gathered to honor his life.
Going back to security on high ground.
There's a tremendous amount of value in grace, courage, and compassion. I think that the degree to which, in terms of racial justice or injustice, we keep talking at each other and we keep going around this vicious cycles, it's because we're not utilizing those virtues sufficiently. So I'm loath to say that Ed Johnson is at rest, and more to say that appreciative of being honored for his teachings to finally be given voice.
This is a reaction to the defilement of Ed Johnson. So this is choosing honor over shame, and choosing truth over silence. And while memorials themselves don't equate to reconciliation, we as a community exist to promote reconciliation.
We have to have light to correct darkness. It's when you shed light on these things that you rid yourself of them. And so the old people in the old church put it another way: this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And so hopefully, this will be the light that shines for us.